Hello, I'm Dudley. Some people call me Boomer because I've got a website I've developed to help caregivers called theboomerway.com. It's a resource for all baby boomers and caregivers in particular. That's what the website looks like. Hope you'll visit it and enjoy it. I should say one more thing about the website and the video you're looking at right now. I cannot give any medical advice. I'm not a doctor, not a physician, not even close to that. I'm just a lucky guy who got some good experience as a caregiver with my dad. If you need good medical advice, here's some places you can go. On the web, you can go to National Institutes of Health, Medline Plus, those are both governmental agencies, the Mayo Clinic, WebMD, or go to your own personal physician for medical advice, not to me or my website. A while ago, my 95-year-old dad came to visit me for the last 5 years of his life. And I've got a little cheat sheet here. I can't memorize all this stuff and I can't afford a teleprompter, so pardon me. Those years became the most rewarding years of my life as I helped him go through his process, and also my wife. We got closer together dealing with Dad, and it really brought us to some of the best years of our almost 50 years of marriage. At the time of this video, it's been about 6 months since Dad passed away, and the developing and publishing of this website that I have, and also the making the video and writing a book, that all kind of helped me go through the grieving process after he passed. I started the website while I was in the hospital some years ago. It's been going on for about 4 years. And again, it just helped me keep my mind working on things other than worrying about the grieving process, which is you go through. Now, to further baby boomer caregivers, to help them a little more, I'm developing a series of videos and they're all part of what I'm calling Backstage Theater, Caregiver Tips. The first one is called The End. And that's going to deal with the end of life process. If you're a caregiver for a senior or any other loved one, we all have the end of life. And so I'm going to try to help you deal with it as best I can, because a lot of people help me. Moving right along here, we're going to start with the end for Dad. That's what this video is called, The End. And I call it Dad's Last Stand. Dad smiled and said, "Thank you." Those are the last words he spoke to me just 4 months before his 100th birthday. He almost made it to 100 years old. Just unbelievable. I just tried to give him a small amount of his favorite dessert, Bluebell peppermint ice cream, but he really couldn't swallow it, and that's when I realized that his long, wonderful journey was almost over. His last moments were as peaceful as my wife and I could make them, and we were so glad he was home with us instead of anyplace else. We were in what's called hospice care at that time, which we'll talk about more a little later. And the hospice nurse was on the phone guiding us with instructions for the use of some of the contents of what's called a comfort kit. And we'd had this on hand for all 5 years that Dad was here, and we finally needed it. Brief little bit about the comfort kit. This is something that if you got somebody in hospice care, which means you're going to be there till the end, the content of this kit can come in very handy. I won't read all the ingredients because it varies from kit to kit, but most of them will have a good shot of morphine liquid in there, which really can help dealing with pain, shortness of breath, other things that your loved one might go through at the end of life. A lot of things I can't even come close to pronouncing: Ativan, atropine drops, Levsin, Haldol, Compazine, I know I'm butchering these names, Phenergen, Dulcolax, Senna, a fleet element. There's all sorts of stuff. But anyhow, we had been given good instructions on what these were for and how to use them. And as I said, the nurse was on the phone actually helping us with the process here. Again, at the end, Dad was at peace with the world. He was holding my hand as he passed, and I'm sure he got a ride on the express elevator straight up to heaven. He had been an Episcopalian priest for over 20 years and helped a lot of people, and a lot of people helped him at the end here. So I was glad that he's in a better place. Yeah, moving back in time a little bit, start with the end, now we're going to move back a little bit. When Dad first came to stay with us, my stepmother of 20 years had been hospitalized. My brother and I went over to pick him up. He was up in New Jersey to bring him back to my house here in Alabama for a brief visit while my stepmom recuperated. Well, as it turned out, she did recuperate. She got worse, and Dad stayed with us for 5 years. Brief visit turned into 5 years. He had pretty severe dementia. He never really knew who I was exactly, or we couldn't tell when he recognized me. Sometimes he did, but most of the time I don't think he did, or my wife. But he was very happy, pleasant. He had, I guess, what I'd call good dementia. I hear some real horror stories of people with dementia that are just very uncooperative, nasty, mean, screaming, yelling, throwing things. Dad was a very peaceful, calm, nice guy, a gentleman to the end. He could walk with a walker, and so he could get around pretty well. And so we just put a side rail on one of the beds we already had in the guest room, which helped him getting out of the bed, and we were off and running, and enjoying taking care of him, and that was it. I think I don't want to be redundant here, but again, Dad was always very polite, friendly, cooperative, smiling. We were both slightly hard of hearing, which was kind of funny at times. He came here with a hearing aid, but I had difficulty getting it fitted on him properly. He was fumbling with it too. I couldn't tell whether the darn thing was working or not working. He couldn't really explain to me clearly what was working or not working. So I just put it away, and he and I were able to communicate pretty well. I'm a little hard of hearing myself, and it worked out all right without the hearing aid. At one point, he was starting to show some signs of illness, and our family physician suggested we get him admitted to the hospital for further testing. There's no point in going to the doctor's office. He said, just get him down to the hospital, and we'll take it from there. So I dialed 911. The EMTs were here almost instantly. The fire station is only about 5 blocks from where we live, and we had a real rude awakening when they got here. The gurney wouldn't go through the door into his bedroom. The hallway, couldn't get around the hallway and into the doorway. Oh geez. So they had to do the initial test on him in the bed, and then took about 3 or 4, and they put him out in the hall on the gurney, and then got him safely into the ambulance and down the road to the hospital. After several days of tests and treatments, he was back in business and ready to come back home. But first, the hospital physician and our local doctor got together and determined it would be beneficial to him to have home care, which was available. And home care, health care service, home health care service, I guess you call it. So they made the necessary phone calls, and by the time Dad was released from the hospital, we already had a bed set up in the room for him. It was a hospital bed, and there are lots of different kinds of hospital beds out there, and I'll tell you about these more in a later video. But there's 2 basic types. One of them has springs and wires, one has a grid. Those beds can, the knees can be brought up, your head can be brought up, the whole bed can go up and down. So it was we had a semi-electric hospital bed when Dad came home. We also immediately started out modifications of a bathroom that was adjacent to his room and a small closet, and had that made into a very large bathroom. And again, we'll talk about that more in later videos, but it was a huge bathroom by that point, and it was all one giant shower. Dad could be on the commode, and I could shower in there if I had to, or he could be sitting on a little seat back there, or standing up holding on. We had grab bars, so it was very, again, we'll have a design for that on the website too if you ever need that. I'll show you how you can get that made. While Dad was in the hospital, before he got home, I would be staying with him during the day there, and that's when I first had the idea of doing the website. I was trying to come up with something I could do while taking care of him, and I've always liked to write. I've done a fair amount of graphic design and whatnot over my years in business, and so I can do a website. Everybody do that. First thing I have to do is come up with a domain name, and I thought, nobody's thought of one called Baby Boomer. I started searching. You wouldn't believe how many people have things with Baby Boomer in their name of the website. So I finally got theboomerway.com and reserved that and started using it, again, while Dad was still in the hospital that first time. Soon, after Dad got home, physical and occupational therapists who were part of the home health care service started to come in and help work with Dad, keep him, get him exercising. They showed me a lot about exercises that were good for him. He and I have been doing some in the past, but a little bit different situation now. So I got some training, and so I could help Dad exercise and improve his balance and whatnot. And they were very good, and they helped me a lot. With some simple things like how to move Dad around without hurting myself. If I hurt myself, then I'm not going to be a very good caregiver. So I had to try to keep in shape and learn the ways to do it properly as far as lifting him and turning him and things like that. Just give me one moment here. My cheap props. There we go. Okay. After about a year, Dad developed a series of escalating problems. We called our physician and were advised once again to call 911 and get him checked out by the paramedics and then make decisions from there. Within minutes, again, the first responders arrived, hooked Dad up to various gizmos, including an EKG monitor, and this time they get in easily because the door had been widened to his room. I rode with him in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, and it was a pretty sad moment, and the driver was very good. He was calming me down, explaining what the process was. He called ahead to the hospital to make sure that we had a private examination room available for Dad when he got there, and he was just very good and drove quickly and safely to the hospital. Without invasive surgery, it was impossible to determine the exact cause of Dad's various symptoms, and due to his advanced age of 97 at the time, any type of surgery was out of the question. After a series of tests and examinations, it was proclaimed that the end was near. The end of life was getting close. And so kind of an expected but not welcome moment for sure. We got him back home, and the physician contacted a hospice provider, which is one step above home health care. Hospice is for people who, again, are at the end of life and maybe have, in this case, they said Dad had maybe 90 days, maybe less, to go. So, but the people from a company called Vitas were our hospice providers. Nurse came to the house, explained the program to us, told us how it would probably go with Dad and what they could do to help us and help him. And so we then, he was admitted into the program, and the family gathered within days. We started making the final plans, which included crematory services, tombstone inscription, what the obituary was going to say, who was going to do what exactly, the graveside service, where it was going to be, his estate, and all the things that had to do with that. And very soon, we were being helped by Vitas with a complete team of professionals, including a physician who came weekly, a nurse. The physician came monthly, the nurse came weekly. We had a chaplain who was available to us. We didn't use them, however, but they had chaplains available. Social worker, a music therapist, among others. So Dad was very well taken care of. We had people who come in and help me changing him. He was incontinent at this time, and he had a catheter, and so there was a lot of things that I didn't want any help at first, but finally the hospice nurse said, listen, you're going to, don't be a fool. The service is available. Put your pride aside and let us help you. So I did. And they were very helpful. Twice a week somebody came in and helped bathe Dad, change his clothes, change the bedding, and that helped me a lot, I guarantee you. Again, numerous other additional services are available to help take care of Dad and me and my wife that we never used. We could have, if we wanted to, they would have had somebody sit with him all day if we want to go out shopping or something, or we could put him into one of the other facilities if we had to go out of town. But we never did that. We kept him right here in our house through the whole period. And my wife has been an invaluable part of the caregiving process and really helped me and Dad both. Our two boys, as she called us. Well, good old Dad fooled all the experts and thankfully outlived their predictions by almost 3 years. And some things that were made clear to me by the hospice nurses as we went through this process were what are the signs that the end is near. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, but I got this off a website called caring.com. caring.com, and there's lots of other places have this too. But what are the signs of the end of life? And we went through some of this with Dad, and some we didn't. Loss of appetite, for example. Physically unable to swallow sometimes. That's what Dad got down to. He just couldn't swallow that ice cream. And excessive fatigue and sleep. And they also tell you what the signs are and how to deal with them, which is very important. Increased physical weakness. Goes on and on. There's lots of different things. And one thing about Dad was, let's see here, a blank stare. They said the nurse came to visit him right towards the very end there, and said, notice how he's staring, but he's not really focusing on anything. And that was kind of the last step, as far as we could tell for him. He just was kind of staring off into space. He was, but again, we kept him very comfortable, and that was it. And that was goodbye to Dad. We're going to miss him a lot. He was a great guy, and that's it for this video. I hope you'll stay tuned for future videos cover other subjects that will be helpful to you if you're a baby boomer caregiver. Thanks a lot.